Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is a 1989 American comic science fiction film where a crazy inventor mistakenly shrinks his kids, and not only his, but also the neighbor's kids, down to the size of a quarter-inch. After being accidentally thrown in the wash, the tiny kids must now fight to get back to their normal size. We begin with two families living side by side at the Selinsky's house. Amy is on the phone with a friend whilst making breakfast. She's taking care of her geeky younger brother, Nick. The two kids aren't really concerned as their parents' relationship hasn't been the best, and their mother has gone to their grandmother's to sort of get some time away from their father. Their home is equipped with varieties of machineries to help ease all kinds of tasks. The kitchen appears quite odd. All the equipment seems custom built. Quite badly, we should add. Their father, Wayne Selinsky, who's a quirky scientist, is trying to design a machine that would be able to shrink anything it comes in contact with. Right next door, the noise from the attic is disturbing the Thompsons, who want to get enough sleep ahead of their fishing trip. Big Russ Thompson tries to warn Wayne through the window while his wife tries to calm him down and get him back to sleep. But Big Russ has had enough with Wayne. He marches towards the Selinskys only to step on his son, Ron's trap in the yard. Oh, poor Russ. Back at the Selinskys' house, Nick runs over to his father's laboratory and shows him a miniature duplicate of the storage gun thing his father had been working on. Wayne ignores him and concentrates on his own machine. Wayne then decides to experiment on an apple. The result was supposed to be a shrunken apple, but instead it just blasts the apple into pieces. Good thing that Nick didn't stay to see his father's failure. Now, let's move on to the Thompsons. Their elder son, Russell, comes out of his room looking dejected. His father excitedly tells him about the fishing trip he has planned for the whole family. But Russell is too sad to jump at the idea. Big Russ's wife explains to her husband that Russell was cut from the football team because he looks small. Okay, now let's see what the Selinskys are up to. In the absence of their mother, Amy has prepared breakfast, which is too burnt for even their dog to go, oh no, anything but this. However, Wayne eats the mess as he's too distracted. In fact, he's so busy with his invention he almost forgets about a conference he has to attend. Wayne's wife, Diane, calls just in time to wish Wayne luck with his conference. Diane promises to be back once she's done selling a house and hangs up. Before Wayne leaves, he instructs Nick how to mow the grass and Amy to tidy up the house. But Nick has other plans. Just like his father, he has made a swanky new lawnmower that works with a remote control. He offers his friend Tommy the golden opportunity to mow their lawn with his cool new invention in exchange for just a box of cookies. Tommy, who is happy with the prospect of using the remote-controlled lawnmower, jumps at the idea. But then he remembers he has something else to take care of. He promises Nick that he'll be back soon. On the other side, Big Russ is busy getting provisions for the fishing excursion. Ron wants to play baseball with someone, but his father and Russell refuse to play with him. Since he cannot find a partner for the baseball game, he decides to ask Nick. But Nick prefers to play Albert Einstein than play games. Typical Mini Wayne. Meanwhile, Amy is cleaning the kitchen while dancing to some music. Russell gets all googly-eyed as he watches her through the window. Big Russ notices what's happening. He decides to have a little talk with his son. Big Russ tells his son that once he puts aside all the distractions, he'll be much stronger and will achieve anything he wants. Later, Ron begins practicing his batting skills, while Russell tries to lift some weights after getting inspired by his father. Ron swings the baseball bat and the bat flies straight through Selinsky's window and somehow starts the computer and lands right onto Mr. Selinsky's cherished shrink gun. When Russell notices this, he takes Ron and takes him up to the next door to apologize. Meanwhile, the machine begins to operate and surprisingly, it works this time. Everything that comes in contact with it starts to shrink. As soon as Amy answers the door, Russell becomes speechless. He regains his calm long enough to convince Ron to accept his mistake and agree to pay for the window with his pocket money. Amy then asks Nick to take Ron to get the ball. She stays back to get acquainted with Russell. Almost as soon as Nick and Ron enter the room, the shrink machine takes its shot. Having taken a longer time than necessary, Amy and Russell decide to check up on the two. But the shrink machine yet again takes its aim and shoots at them, and shrinks them down to the size of a quarter-inch. Amy and Russell realize that they have both been shrunk, and they try to take it all in. They both find that their brothers are in the same problem. The kids are now smaller than the size of a nail, and a little bark from their dog can literally make them go deaf. But at least they have a couch to sit on. Meanwhile, at the conference, Wayne Selinsky seems to be having a very bad day. The diplomats aren't buying his idea of how it's possible to shrink down objects to tiny sizes. They laugh at Wayne's idea and leave the conference room one by one. Later, Wayne gets back home and is surprised to find that nobody's home. As he starts walking towards his experiment room, the shrunk machine starts to search for a target to aim at. But luckily, the baseball rolls off the machine and Wayne is saved. The shrunk kids try to get his attention, but their voices are simply too low to get to Wayne's ears. It's weird how Wayne doesn't realize that his couch is missing. Oh, there you go, now he knows. Wayne tries to sit at the couch's usual spot, but lands on his butt. He later realizes that his window was broken, but as he sees his shrink machine, he gets angry. Not knowing that his machine actually works, Wayne tries to break his invention, believing it has ruined his life. The kids then have to save themselves by trying not to get hit by the large broken parts of the shrink machine. But later they have a much bigger problem to face, as Wayne almost sweeps them away while trying to clean up his mess. Wait, not almost. He completely sweeps them and throws them into a garbage bin. Wayne later tosses the bag to the side of the road. Fortunately, the children manage to cut through the wall of their plastic prison, and what they see in front of them is a really vast grass jungle. When you're so small, the grass really does seem like a jungle. It's a tough situation. Everyone slowly follows Ron out, crawling over a blade of grass. Russell and Ron are arguing over who's in charge. They move aimlessly, intending to get Amy back to her normal size for her date with Russell and Ron in time for their fishing trip. Meanwhile, Diane gets home to meet her husband, who tells her about his bad day at the conference, as contrasted to her good day at work. Diane asks about the children, but he doesn't know their whereabouts. He believes that they're at the mall or something, and then tells Diane about the disappearance of his couch. Down at the grasses, the kids are stopped by the biggest butterfly they've ever seen. They run away and hide under a mushroom to avoid getting eaten. Luckily, they don't. Nick then thinks that dogs have remarkable hearing ability, and if they could get the attention of their dog, Cork, it'll come to the rescue and carry all of them back inside. However, the issue is how to get the dog's attention. They climb up a stalk and get the dog's attention, but just then, the dog gets scared off by a cat. Inside the house, Diane and Wayne are informing neighbors and acquaintances that the kids are missing. No one else has seen them. At the grasses, the ruckus knocks the kids off their feet and Nick lands right in the center of a blooming daisy. He has a pollen allergy though, so it's bad news. Meanwhile, the two mothers meet in the yard and inquire about their respective children's whereabouts. They promise to inform each other if either of them sees the kids first. Diane decides to go to the mall to look for them, while Wayne stays home waiting for the kids to arrive. Before leaving on a search mission for her kids, Diane instructs Wayne to give her customers, the Borsteins, the house purchase papers when they come by. Back to the grasses. A swamp of bees pollinate the flower Nick has fallen into. He holds onto the bee, and Russell also jumps onto the bee to save Nick. The bee then takes both of them on a dangerous ride around their house. The bee at first flies towards Russell's dad, and then towards Nick's dad, who picks up the baseball stick to scare it away. The bee gets scared and flies back into the grass, and when it takes a sudden stop, the momentum sends the kids flying. As the bee flies away, he looks at the stick in his hand. None of his kids play baseball, so how did a baseball bat get into his yard? He then notices the broken attic window and races up to the attic, where he sees the baseball that has broken the window. Just then, he steps on something which turns out to be a very small version of his couch. Finally, everything falls into place, and his eyes dart to the machine. It all makes sense to him now. The machine has worked after all. He understands that the kids must have gone to the baseball and, in the process, got shrunk. He thinks they shouldn't be too far and bends to look for them. Suddenly, he comes upon the broom he had used to sweep, and the realization hits him. With a magnifier, he goes to the trash but doesn't find any sign of the kids. He notices the hole in the garbage bag on the curb. Then, on his way back to the house, he realizes that with each step he makes, he may squish the kids, so he crawls along the fence like a lunatic. Russell looks down at Nick as he wakes up coated in bee pollen. They don't know where they are, but based on the state of the grass, they're still in Selinsky's yard. On the other side, Ron and Amy are finding it hard to get along with each other. Things are getting difficult down in the grass jungle. Wayne puts on his crutches and binoculars in an effort to look for his kids, but in the process, he accidentally ends up setting off the sprinklers, which results in the kids having to deal with heavy water drops. While trying to save their lives from the water drops, the four kids finally get back together, but Amy gets hit by a droplet and falls into a mud hole. To save his crush's life, Russell rushes and slides heroically to come to Amy's rescue. Amy successfully gets pulled out of the huge mud hole, and she lives, all thanks to Russell. Meanwhile, the Borsteins have arrived to finalize the deal, and get told off to not step on the grass. Wayne is determined to rescue the kids and completely ignores the Borsteins. He later realizes that the sprinkler is on and quickly turns it off. Wayne now devises another, rather weird means of searching for the kids. Next, the Forresters, who the Thompsons were supposed to go on a trip with, arrive, but Big Russ reluctantly refuses to go with them as his kids are nowhere to be found. Down at the Grasses, the children are hungry. They are enthralled by the sight of a massive cream-filled cookie. They devour it heartedly before being stopped by a massive ant who demands a slice of the cookie. Nick, being proactive, comes with a fantastic plan. He wants to ride on the back of the ant and get into his house. Despite Amy's warnings, the boys actively run towards the ant and try to get on top of it. But the ant is really strong, and it doesn't let them ride so easily. Amy finally comes up with a plan to coax the ant into submission with a piece of cookie, and the kids are finally able to ride the insect. Diane, on the other hand, gets back home from the mall to find out that the children have still not arrived. The Thompsons report to the police about their children, and Diane thinks it is wise to do so too, so she calls the police. Wayne decides that it's time to tell his wife the truth, but who would buy that kind of story? Diane passes out. The cops arrive to answer the family. Wayne assures them that the kids are on the lawn, but he doesn't go into details. Meanwhile, the kids take a break to feed the ant, and Ron appears to have formed a strong relationship with it, so he asks the group to release it. The group decides to let the ant free, but the ant has another idea, as it starts to follow them. Soon the kids are attacked by a giant cigarette that Ron's father has thrown. He had quit smoking, and the kids understand that he has taken it because he's worried about them. Back on the lawn, Diane decides to join Wayne in the search. Both of them are floating over the grass trying to look for their kids who are the size of a quarter inch. They can hear the Thompsons arguing and they think that it's time to tell them. Upon hearing the story, the Thompsons are doubtful, mad, and furious. On the other side, the kids have quite wisely made use of the cigarette and use it as a torch to guide them through the dark. They finally find a safe spot to sleep, which is Nick's Lego block. Diane is restless with worry. She refuses to sleep when Wayne asks her to. The parents are worried because they believe it's their fault for not taking care of their children. Meanwhile, Amy and Russell have begun to get attracted to each other. As they exchange kisses, they get interrupted by a scorpion. I'm not really sure what it is, so I'm calling it a scorpion. They all get out of the Lego, but Ron gets stuck and has to deal with the scorpion. Ron's cry for help gets heard by his ant friend, who quickly comes to his rescue. As Ron is brought back to safety, the ant gets stung by the scorpion. The kids successfully manage to scare off the scorpion, but it's too late as the ant who saved Ron's life is now dead. A really sad way to end the night. The next morning, Tommy arrives at Nick's home and begins to mow the lawn with Nick's remote-controlled lawnmower. The Selinskys are busy repairing the shrinking machine and don't notice what Tommy is up to. To not get cut into pieces by the lawnmower, the kids take shelter in the earthworm's burrow. They desperately hang on to their dear lives as they try not to get pulled by the lawnmower's force and get sliced into pieces. Luckily, the Selinskys arrive just in time and stop Tommy. Just then, their dog Cork sniffs into the grass and the kids use the opportunity to hang onto his hair. Cork takes them inside the house and tries to alert Wayne about it. But in the process, Nick falls into his father's cereal bowl. Wow. The kids are shrunk to the size of a quarter of an inch, and these two are enjoying their breakfast. Bravo, Selinskys. So much for that sad talk you two had last night. Anyway, moving on. Nick almost gets eaten by his father, but luckily, Cork hears Nick's cry for help and bites Wayne to stop him. Finally, they are discovered, and the Thompsons are notified. Wayne has fixed the machine, but he isn't sure if it'll work and bring the kids back to their normal sizes. Big Russ, being a caring father, insists that the machine should be tested on him before the children. The machine works completely fine, and Big Russ is shrunken down and then successfully brought back to his original size. The movie ends on a happy note, as the kids finally get back to their normal size and the two families become friends. It was an unexpected box office success, grossing $222 million worldwide. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down your thoughts on the movie. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fun videos.